Right, so welcome once again to Gotham Music School's technical sessions on the drums. And today we're going to look a bit at time signature. We're going to do some other stuff as well, but we're going to start with time signature. This is going to connect to something quite important that kind of is a natural development from triplets we were looking at in the other technical sessions. So let's get into it. What is a time signature? For today, I've got my board here to help me. And here we go. So all the time when we're looking at our music in our books, at the beginning of our music, we'll normally see this here, these two numbers where we got 4, 4. So that is our time signature. I've written that on the bottom there, time signature. Now 4/4 time signature is the most common really in Western music, certainly in pop music. You'll hear it obviously in rock and blues and all sorts. So it's the most common, which is why we start with it straight away. And 4/4, what it basically means is that we have 4 crotchet beats in each measure in our bar, which is why when we're counting, we're always going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, why aren't we counting up to 5? Why aren't we counting up to 7? I mean, the reason is because we're told the music is 4/4, so there are 4 beats in the bar, is basically what we need to know. All right. Now those beats can be divided into smaller sections, right? We know that because we know that we can play quavers 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we can play semiquavers 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So although we know that there are 4 beats in the bar, we can split those into smaller things. So let's just have a little look at some of those. Now, what we're starting with is our crotchet beat. This is a quarter note. Some people will call it a quarter note, but that's worth 1 beat, right? So when we're saying 4/4, we're saying that there are 4 of these in 1 bar. As we said, we can split these up. We can play them like this. We could play them as our quavers, 1 and 2 and 3, and we can play them as our semiquavers, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on, right? These are sometimes called 8th notes, by the way, and these are very commonly called 16th notes. So there are different ways we can split those up. So we're going to start just by having a play through those different common ways that we've seen so far in Trinity, rock and pop. All right. Depending where you are in your grades, you'll have seen other things, but we're going to start with the basics. Okay. So what we're going to do is, grabbing my sticks, we're going to play first of all with our crotchets. So that is the whole beat here. So when we're doing this, we're just counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, very common in the Trinity rock and pop drum syllabus, when we're doing that, what we're doing is we are hitting our crash cymbal to mark our beat, and then we're swapping between the kick and the snare. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Playing like that, right? That's quite common in the lower grades. Then when we're playing our quavers, obviously right from our first initial grade, on the hi-hat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we're playing that kind of thing, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and so on. Okay? Then the next one was semiquavers, which are these ones here. Now we've seen those as well. And again, a very common pattern that we'll see those used with, again, is on the hi-hat, where we're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 what we're going to do is we're going to run between those different note values without stopping. So we're going to play a couple of bars of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 into 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 into the semiquavers. Semiquavers, we want to keep the same beat going really, so we're still going to be using the kick and the snare. So we're going to be going. Right, so we're aiming for that kind of beat on the hi-hat with the semiquavers. That right hand coming down onto the snare, yeah? So if you've not tried that before, get that working before you then try and combine all the rhythms that we're going to do now. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do a couple of bars of each. And this is just kind of experimenting with our note divisions, sticking in 4/4 time signature for the time being. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 4 of each. 2, 3, 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Into the semiquavers. 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, that's what we're going for. Yeah, 4 bars of each. That's a nice round number. Makes it nice and easy to remember when to change. All right, are you ready? So let's do that together again. So we're going to go on the crash to start with, as I just did. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 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 1, and 2, and 2, and 3, and 4, and here we go. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and A, 2 and A. And so on. So that's a great way just to practice your different rhythms there on the different cymbals. Get your your note values moving around a bit, changing up the speed and so on. Right, now the other thing, of course, that we can split our crotchet into is 3. Our triplets that we've talked about before. So a triplet written like this, we have got 3 quavers written with a 3 above them, telling us that we have to fit these 3 quavers into the space of a crotchet, okay? So 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and, or some people count it 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, so on. Right. So what we're going to do now is look at how we can play a rhythm using a triplet on the cymbal. So obviously what we've done so far is we've changed our note values on the cymbals, haven't we? Our kick and our snare have stayed the same. So we've gone crotchets, quavers, semiquavers, and now we're going to do triplet. So it's going to go 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a So let's just explain that a little bit. Because if we think about it, if we have split our 4/4 timing and we've split 4 of our crotchet into groups of 3, then that means we've got 4 of these in a row, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. If we've got 4 of these, how many times are we actually hitting that hi-hat? 4 times 3. 12, isn't it? Right, so it's 12. So we're actually hitting the hi-hat 12 times. And let's have a think a bit more about it. How many of these crotchets are we playing? Still 4, right? So in a way, we're still playing 4/4. But what we've done is we've split our crotchet into those triplets, making 12 of them. So because it's a little bit messy, really, to write it like this all the time, the way it's often done instead is we change our time signature. So you can think of your time signature a bit like a fraction, where the bottom number is how many of your main beats fit into that measure. So for example, with 4/4, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd have my 4 crotchet in a bar, right? So I split it into 4. These are how many I can fit in there. All right? And then we use the number on top to say how many of them there are. So it's a bit like your denominator, your numerator and denominator in your fractions, okay? If you've done those, right? So we could write it like this, and we could split each of one of these. I'll just do it roughly and quickly. We could split each of these into a triplet. Last one. We could split each one into a triplet like that, and that just makes it quite messy and hard to write. So instead of doing that, what we do is we use a 12/8 time signature. Because what we're saying is we're saying that we've split our measure into 8, which means that we're talking about our quavers, okay? Because I can fit 8 of my quavers in one bar, can't I? So I've now split it into 8 because our focus is our quavers. And then what we need to do is actually play 12 of those quavers in a bar. So the thing is, what we're doing is exactly the same as here. We're actually playing 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We're still hitting 12 quavers in a bar, but it just means that we write it out slightly differently, and we don't need to put this little 3 around everything, make them into triplets. Basically, we're combining the best of both worlds. We've got a really nice steady 4/4 beat, but we've got the kind of feel of a triplet, feel almost of 3/4 rather than 4/4 music. All right? So I know this is a little bit complicated, but hopefully it's making sense. Now, if you want an example of this and you're doing the Trinity Rock and Pop drum syllabus, the first time you're going to come across it is in your grade 2 with Falling by Alicia Keys. And this is a brilliant example of it, where we're playing in 4, so we've got a good solid 4 beat to it still. Got a feel of 4/4 almost. We've got good steady feel to it. It's easy to follow along with. But actually, all of these, it's still got a kind of triplet feel. It's kind of got that 3/4 almost swung feel to it. All right? So we're going to start playing some of that. We are now in a 12/8 time signature where we're going, and we're going to count it like a triplet as well. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. So it's got that kind of 4/4 characteristics, it's still familiar to us. We're still hitting the kick on 1 and 3. We're still hitting the snare on 2 and 4. Nothing's really changed that much, but it's also got that 3/4 feel because we're thinking about groups of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So yeah, 12/8 time signature. Very interesting time signature in pop music. Here we go. Right. So what we're going to do is, the reason I was playing this, the snare like that, is my cross sticks, is because that's what it does in the song I mentioned, Falling, in grade 2. But we're not going to do that. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to hit the snare normally. But we're going to practice it. So what we're going to do is, as I said, hit the kick on 1 and 3, snare and 2 and 4. Hi-hat's going to be going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay? You can see how this ties in to the triplet work we've been doing lately, can't you? Because really what we're doing, you can view this as playing 4/4 in triplets. Okay? So let's go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 All right, so keep practicing that until you feel happy with it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to add in a couple of extra kicks. So we're going to add in a kick before where we normally put it. So have a little listen to this. Okay, it's going to sound like that. I'm going to count it for you now so you can pay attention to where that new kick, the extra kick, falls. Okay. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. So it's on the 1. Okay. 1, 2, and 3 and 4. It's on the 3, 1. Okay. 1 and let me just clap it for you. I'll show you what I mean. So going 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1. Okay. And also, just yesterday we were looking at a blues shuffle rhythm, and I'm hoping that you can see how this really fits with the blues shuffle rhythm as well, where we're doing a very similar thing on that kick drum. Okay. So if I was doing a blues shuffle rhythm, 1. I was doing a blues shuffle rhythm. Let me start again. There we go. Took me a while, but I got there. So you can see how we're doing a very similar thing there with hitting that extra kick drum before the beat, going into the beat. All right. So yeah, have a practice of this one. I'll play it again in the 12/8, going back to that 12/8 time signature. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. When you start getting the hang of that one, start trying to get the emphasis on the beat. So the second kick is slightly harder, the one that's falling on the number slightly harder. Okay, so it's like 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Okay, so if you get that, yeah, if you get the heavier kick second, the louder kick second, that just gives it a more of a solid feel. All right, so really aim for that if you can. All right, there we go. That is how we're working in 12/8, just the introduction to and the basics of. Also, similar to what we were talking about with the blues shuffle, if you've got a fill in 12/8, it's very common for it to also fall into your triplet. Okay, so for example, right, one and a, two and a. All right, so when you're playing it as well, feel free to mess around a little bit with kind of little triplet fills. You can try to get that kick drum involved as well. Yeah, one and a, two and a, three and a, four and a, one. One and a, two and a, three and a, four and a, one. One and a, two and a, three and a, four and a, one. So anything you want, just have a little experiment round. Have a play around with it, have an experiment with it, and yeah, look at different ways you can get the fills in using that kind of triplet feel. All right, okay, so there we go. That was 12/8 time signature. Any questions, please ask. But basically, all we're doing really is turning our 4/4 into 12/8 by making all of those crotchets into triplets. That's all we're really doing. Because they're quaver triplets, we can fit 8 quavers in a bar instead of our 4 normal crotchets. So that's where the 8 comes from. We can fit 8 quavers in there. Okay, and the 12 comes from the fact that our crotchets are now broken into groups of 3 triplets. So 3 times 4 is 12. 12/8. And that's all it means. But it's got a really, really cool feel to it, a really good groove to it. And yeah, I recommend having a real good practice of that one because it will tie in nicely with some of the stuff from Trinity Rock and Pop. If you're doing a grade 2, check out Falling in your book. If you're not, then just have an experiment with it anyway. It's a great time signature to play around in. Okay, take care and have fun. I will see you soon. Bye bye.